1. Chapter 1, Introduction and History. Introduction. Throughout history, the different civilizations have used statutes to set norms and keep order. Laws have evolved throughout history to reflect humanity's efforts to organize and control groups. Understanding this journey through time is critical for understanding the roots of current legal systems and how they influence our lives today. Legislation represents the written expression of a society's views, values, and expectations. Some of the earliest legal codes were coined long ago by ancient civilizations such as Mesopotamia. These civilizations developed rules like the Code of Yornamu and Hammurabi's Code. The latter paved the way for subsequent legal systems influencing society's legal systems beyond their time and location. In this paper, we will explore the evolution of legislation from ancient times till the present. Examining this history provides insight into the beginnings of our legal systems as well as society's continual yearning for justice and order. 1.1 Religion as a factor in formation of law. 1.1.1 Judaism. The Torah, which serves as the foundation of Judaism, is widely acknowledged to be the primary educational literature for its adherents. Within Judaism, Halakha refers to a comprehensive set of Jewish legal concepts inherited from both the oral and written Torah. However, assessing Judaism's influence on legal systems can be difficult due to the diversity of Halakha among Jewish communities, including Ashkenazi, Mizrahi, Sephardi, and Yemenite traditions. Halakha encompasses all of the behavioral guidelines that govern Jews' daily lives, including mourning rituals, dietary restrictions, sartorial guidelines, personal grooming standards, business ethics, marital laws, holiday and Shabbat observance, and, most importantly, directives regarding interactions with God, fellow humans, and animals. 2. As a result, the impact of Halakha on modern legal systems is inextricably linked to society's quest of compromises that satisfy both religious and secular viewpoints. 1.12. 1.1.2 Christianity. Christianity includes many different religious denominations, such as Orthodoxy, Protestantism, Catholicism, and Lutheranism. Despite this variation, broad concepts that capture the essence of Christianity can be identified. Many theologians define Christian morality as a systematic system that includes moral principles, attitudes, and behavior. The origins of these moral standards are sometimes traced back to Jesus Christ's famous Sermon on the Mount. When assessing Christianity's impact on legal systems, it is critical to consider the formative period highlighted by the formation of original legal codes. The Russkaya Pravda, the Rus law, is an important source in this regard, as it delineates issues relevant to criminal and civil law, as well as procedural procedures. Notably, religious principles and precepts have historically served as the foundation for Christian communities' fundamental legal systems, resulting in a long-term symbiotic relationship between religion and law. 1.13. 1.1.3 Islam. The phrase Muslim law refers to the deep integration of Islamic ideas and practices into the legal frameworks of countries where Islam is the state, religion, or dominant faith. The Quran is central to the Muslim faith, regarded as the fundamental and sacred source of guidance. Notably, the Quran differs from other religious scriptures in that it intricately weaves moral precepts into numerous methods for controlling social relationships, such as religious ceremonies, customary practices, and legal statutes. Sharia, a complete framework that includes moral principles, religious beliefs, and behavioral norms, guides the conduct of a devoted Muslim. Sharia categorizes Muslim behaviors into numerous categories. Mandatory acts, fard, such as the required 5 daily prayers. 3. Recommended acts, mustahab, are excellent activities whose omission results in no punishment, such as forgiveness and patience. Permissible behaviors, halal, jais, that are neither explicitly promoted nor discouraged. Disfavored behaviors, makruh, refer to actions that are unwanted but not penalized, such as wastefulness or miserliness. Prohibited acts, haram, include activities and attitudes that justify punishment, such as drinking alcohol or indulging in usury. These categories are consistent with legal theory's division between imperative and dispositive regulation procedures. Islamic banking, which prohibits usury, is an example of how Islamic principles can be integrated into legal practice. Islamic banks adhere to Sharia-compliant processes and are legally recognized institutions in Muslim-majority countries. These instances highlight the systematic relationship between Islamic teachings and legal conventions, demonstrating how religious considerations continue to impact legal frameworks in modern cultures. 1.14. 1.2 Ancient Legal Codes. 1.2.1 Code of Yornamu, circa 2100 to 2050 BCE. The Law of Yornamu, which is thought to have been created roughly 300 years before the well-known Hammurabi's Code, is the oldest known written legal law. When Hammurabi's rules were discovered in 1901, they were acclaimed as the earliest legal statutes. However, older collections discovered through archaeological endeavors eventually eclipsed them. These antecedent legal compilations include the Laws of Eshnunna, which date from around 1800 BC, and the Laws of King Lipitishtar of Isin, which are thought to have begun around 1930 BC. Additionally, old Babylonian copies from the time about 1900 to 1700 BC have been unearthed to contain fragments of the Yornamu Law Code, totaling 26 statutes out of 57. A remarkable archaeological find, a cylinder seal containing the entire text of the Yornamu Law Code, is the first example of a fully legal document known to humans. This artifact not only 4. represents the earliest known law code, but it also contains the first known reference to Yornamu's relationship with the legal statutes contained inside. 5. Example 1. If a man commits a murder, that man must be killed. 2. If a man commits a robbery, he will be killed. 3. If a man commits a kidnapping, he is to be imprisoned and pay 15 shekels of silver. 1.2.2 Hammurabi's Code, circa 1754 BCE. The name Hammurabi comes from the sixth ruler of the Babylonian dynasty. The latter ruled over central Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, and Hammurabi's ancestors trace back to the Amorites, a semi-nomadic tribe from Syria. The derivation of his name reflects a confluence of cultural influences, Hammu, derived from the Amorite term for family, mixed with Rapi, which means great in Akkadian, the major language spoken in Babylon during his time. This combination of linguistic features represents the various cultural milieu of ancient Mesopotamia. The stele holding the Code of Hammurabi is made from a single piece of diorite, a very robust but extremely difficult material for sculptural work due to its hardness and density. This black stone relic, weighing nearly 4 tons, exemplifies ancient artistry and technological prowess. The document attributed to Hammurabi, which is thought to have been compiled around the close of his reign, is more than just a proclamation of abstract principles, it is a collection of legal precedents. This textual corpus contains texts celebrating Hammurabi's equitable and devoted government. Notably, Hammurabi's Code contains some of antiquity's earliest examples of the idea of lex talionis, also known as the principle of retributive justice summarized in the colloquial saying, an eye for an eye. 6.15. Each of the 282 edicts in Hammurabi's Code follows a standardized pattern with an if-then format. This style represents a conditional statement in which a specific action or event, the if condition, is followed by a specified outcome or direction, the then clause. This 5. systematic method promotes clarity and uniformity in legal pronouncements, ensuring unambiguous interpretation and application of the laws outlined in the code. The edicts address a wide range of legal issues, including familial connections, contractual agreements, and governance. Within this broad scope, the edicts frequently define multiple norms of justice adapted to the many socio-economic strata that existed within Babylonian society. These social divisions often included the propertied class, liberated individuals, and those in servitude, with edicts often dictating differing treatment and rights based on each social standing. 6. Example 1. If someone accuses another person of murder without giving sufficient evidence, the accuser will face the death penalty. 2. If someone unlawfully takes objects from a temple or residence, they will face the death penalty, as will anyone caught in possession of the stolen goods. 3. If a builder develops a home for a customer but fails to ensure structural integrity, resulting in a fractured wall, the builder is required to strengthen the wall at their own expense. 1.2.3 Ius Civile and Ius Gentium. In the ancient Roman setting, the phrase jus civile referred to Rome's customary legal framework. As Rome increased its connections with surrounding Italian republics, a standardized legal system for cross-border transactions became necessary, and the concept of jus gentium evolved to meet this requirement. Notably, under Roman civil law, multiple rights governed the transfer of various sorts of property, reflecting the unique practices of different city-states. However, a common element in these rights was the actual transfer of possession, leading to the awareness that property may pass through the application of similar laws among divergent tribes, which became known as jus gentium or the law of nations. 6. As the shortcomings of the ancient and complicated jus civile procedures became apparent, an alternative system known as praetorian law emerged. This alternate jurisdiction enabled the application of jus gentium principles to transactions across the entire Roman territory. Praetorian law gradually gained traction, eventually supplanting regular jus civile procedures, rendering them effectively obsolete. Justinian's reforms, which abolished the division between civil and praetorian law, helped to accelerate this transformation. 7.8. Furthermore, a growing philosophical theory proposed the presence of fundamental legal principles common to all civilized states. These principles were divided into two categories: natural law, which is based on universal morals and includes concepts like the prohibition of murder and the institution of marriage, and law of nations, which represents agreements observed by most civilized societies but not inherent in nature, such as property rights. Given that Roman law, in its mature form, closely resembled the principles of law of nature and nations, it was regarded as a manifestation of reason. Consequently, it served as the core academic basis for several European legal systems, notwithstanding variances in legislation and conventions. This conceptual alignment also served as the foundation for early modern international law, demonstrating Roman legal thought's long-lasting influence on succeeding legal developments. 7, 8, 9. Lex vs. Jus. Lex and jus both refer to the concept of law. However, the term lex refers to a law that has been fully codified in writing and validated by a competent legislative authority, often referring to a statute adopted by the legislative body. In contrast, jus refers to a broader understanding of law. It may not always require legislative action. Instead, it symbolizes the complete legal system, including a comprehensive set of norms and ideas. In this way, jus is similar to the concept of natural law. Additionally, jus can refer to a legal entitlement or right. 10. 7. 1.2.4 Middle Ages and Feudalism. Feudalism, which existed within European medieval society from the 10th to 13th century, was a socio-economic system characterized by a hierarchical framework based on the localized administrative authority and the division of land into discrete units known as fiefs. In this system, a landowner, known as a lord, handed a fief to an individual, known as a vassal, in exchange for several duties, such as military duty and legal protection. This reciprocal connection was frequently supplemented by some type of payment or tribute from the vassal to the lord. 11.16. The vassal's compensation to the lord is often depicted as feudal service, which includes obligations such as military tasks or regular offerings of agricultural produce or currency. It is noteworthy that both the lord and the vassal had the status of freemen under this feudal framework. It is also noteworthy that the term feudalism is typically not employed to characterize the relationship between the unfree peasantry, known as serfs or villeins, and those of higher social status on whose land they worked. The vassal who derived revenue from the land exercised rule over its inhabitants, and had the authority to pass these entitlements down to their successors. 11. 1.2.5 Renaissance and Early Modern Legal Systems. The representation of legal progress throughout the Renaissance period depicts a dynamic interaction between customary practices, particularism, and legal ideas, universalism. As abstract notions of the rule of law become interwoven with the rise of centralized territorial entities, legal standards will eventually prevail. Traditional accounts of this era frequently stress top-down perspectives, emphasizing the primacy of centralized governmental authority over fragmented localized power systems. However, contemporary study increasingly recognizes the importance of resistance to such imposition, as communities maintain their traditional practices against external legislative intrusions. 17. The concept of ius commune, or common law, can be seen as a strategic tool used by rulers to assert their authority and advance their interests. In contrast, ius proprium, or local law, dealt primarily with property control and management. As a result, subjects regularly used ius proprium to challenge monarchs' claims to property, particularly in taxes, resulting in heated 8. Debates about how to distinguish between private interests and the public good. These conflicts have resulted in important constitutional changes, occasionally even spawning revolutionary uprisings. 1718. 1.2.6 19th century codification. During the 18th century, there was a strong need for a clear and standardized legal framework, which frequently resulted in an overemphasis on the importance and dignity of written law. Despite this, the actual definition of codification remains a mystery, given its constant growth. The term code comes from the Latin codex, which, in ancient Rome, denoted a new technique of textual presentation that differed from the previous practice of scroll-based writings. Unlike scrolls, a codex was made up of individual sheets of parchment or paper bound together along one side, much like modern books. As a result, throughout this time, a codex served as a formal medium for presenting documents, regardless of their legal significance, and without any inherent connection to legal jurisprudence. 1920. Several attempts towards legal codification were made, but none produced satisfactory results, until the outbreak of the Great French Revolution. While France was not a pioneer in modern legal codification, Frederick the Great of Prussia began codification efforts in the mid-18th century, resulting in the completion of a code in 1794. However, this code simply restated existing legal norms rooted in custom and Roman law, rather than representing a comprehensive modern codification. It had significant flaws and failed to serve as a model for future legal reforms. France, on the other hand, took the lead as the second country to establish a codified legal system, distinguished by the remarkable quality of its efforts, which eventually catapulted codification to prominence across civil law jurisdictions. 2021. In 1800, Napoleon appointed a 4-member codification commission. Remarkably, this commission created a civil law in just 4 months. The document was reviewed and provided feedback by the Cour de Cassation and appellate courts before being given to the legislature. The code was a huge success when it was first enacted in 1804. It represented a progressive legal framework that eliminated feudal relics, streamlined, and consolidated the legal system. 9. Avoided unnecessary detail to ensure clarity, gave judges discretion, and showed flexibility to suit changing situations. 20. 1.2.7 20th Century Globalization and International Law. Globalization is defined as the rise of multinational entities with political bargaining power, the emergence of global issues and threats that exceed individual governments' regulation capacity, and fundamental shifts in societal and political integration. Within this framework, it is vital to assess the effectiveness and significance of international law in today's changing globalized world. 22. An alternate view of globalization places it inside a framework that includes social, technological, political, legal, and cultural components resulting from the dynamic evolution of production, consumption, and trade patterns. Profound changes in the global economy highlight the idea that globalization arises from the creation of a global market that necessitates the development of demanding yet adaptable regulatory frameworks. Such regulations are critical for guaranteeing the effective and equitable operation of commercial exchanges between legal entities, whether individuals or states. 22-23. The phenomenon of globalization also entails several adverse consequences, stemming from its unregulated and unmanaged nature. If left unchecked, globalization can exert implicit impacts on legal frameworks. Consequently, in recent years, the mobility of law has escalated, as the enforcement of legal principles no longer solely involves resolving disputes between neighboring entities. Instead, it encompasses the orchestration of capital, goods, information, and individuals across nations, spanning continents. The emergence of the concept of legal globalization reflects the imperative for procedural mechanisms aimed at safeguarding the integrity of these flows and preempting potential risks arising from such processes. 23. Experts assert that the field of legal studies experiences the greatest impact from the ongoing global unification process, necessitating continuous updates to accommodate emerging facets of contemporary social life. With the regular emergence of new legal domains, methodologies, enforcement strategies, and regulatory techniques, it becomes imperative for legal scholarship to remain adaptable. Failure to do so may result in an inability to address evolving societal needs, and may lead to a lag in the effectiveness of legal frameworks. 24. 10. 1.2.8 Contemporary legal systems. A. Constitutional law. Constitutional law occupies a paramount position as the foundational and supreme legal framework within a state. It delineates the structure and operations of the state government, limiting its authority to powers explicitly conferred by the Constitution. In accordance with this definition, the Constitution encompasses the entirety of a state's constitutional laws, specifying the organizational structure and authority of the government, outlining principles and regulations governing political processes, defining the relationship between citizens and their government, and delineating the rights and obligations of individuals within society. 25. B. Administrative law. Administrative law pertains to the legal oversight of governmental functions and associated administrative authorities. Essentially, it encompasses a corpus of regulations, directives, and adjudicative determinations formulated by governmental administrative agencies. Administrative law encompasses grievances concerning governmental actions that negatively impact individuals, thereby necessitating assessment of the legality of governmental conduct. This entails a dual examination, scrutinizing the legality of the law itself and evaluating the legality of specific actions purportedly sanctioned by said law. 26. 1.2.9 Technological advancements. While speculation regarding the transformative impact of technology on legal practice or doctrine is not novel, recent times have seen a surge in the advancement and promotion of legal technologies, alongside heightened discourse on their ramifications. Legal technologies encompass a spectrum of tools that facilitate interaction with legal concepts, or aid users in navigating legal frameworks, as well as the associated competencies and methodologies for their utilization. This encompasses any technology that can be harnessed to achieve legal ends. 27. 11. It is worth mentioning that the impact of legal technology is dictated not only by their capabilities, but also by significant societal variables. Some technological perspectives hold that when technology evolves, society inherently improves, presuming that a technology's capabilities determine how it will be embraced and what consequences it will produce. However, these viewpoints ignore the importance of human decisions in technology design and application. In truth, technology is the result of both its own development and social influences. As a result, any assessment of the effects of legal technologies must take into account the social context. Even if technology provides certain possibilities, they are still influenced by human decisions and how people use them. 27, 28. To sum up, the implications of legal technology are not fixed in stone. Instead, they are determined by the qualities of each technology, the choices users make when adopting or rejecting them, and the legal context in which they function. 28. 12.